No, this is bound to be a very contentious financial bill. The Financial Bill 2023, in the history of this country, it's never been steeped to so much debate, outcry, and of course also organizations decrying some of the articles within this particular bill. And this is a list from the start that so far organizations are opposing the finance bill. We have Law Society of Kenya, we have Kenya Association of Manufacturers, Federation of Kenya Employers, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, also Institute of Economic Affairs, Kenya National Union of Teachers, Kenya University Staff Union are opposing this bill as well. Digital Financial Services Association of Kenya are also in that particular bid. We have the National Taxpayers Association as well, who are lending their voice to it as well. Kenya Human Rights Commission, they are stoutly also opposing this particular bill. The Institute for Social Accountability, Amnesty International Kenya as well is opposing the bill as well. International Budget Partnership Kenya, and the list goes on and on. Center for Economic Governance, we have Kenya Airlines Pilots Association, we have the Institute of Surveyors as well, and it goes on and on and on and on. And that is where it stands right now. Even as it heads to Parliament, the debate that is bound to be on the floor of the House will be akin to the VAT that was 8% during the Uhuru's administration as well, that everyone was opposing it too. And this is what we're discussing with our panelists here. I think, Makali, you want to see the level of opposition. And people have said, if all these organizations, the trade unions, set for maybe KOTU, and even under KOTU, the trade unions that are under KOTU, they're not flying on this under the flag of Atwoli, who's really supporting this particular bill. What does it tell you about the sentiment and hearing?
Actually, that's what I was saying on Saturday. If you watch my clip, I was saying that I've been in Parliament for the last now 10 years. This is my 11th year in Parliament. And I've never seen this level of opposition to a finance bill. And the fact that there is so much opposition from all corners of this world, from all very many organizations which have never opposed a finance bill in the past, should be sending a very clear signal to the leadership that there must be something not really working well in this bill. That's why I was saying that really, when you see this level of opposition, it's high time as a leader. You said, even though I'm the leader, I need to sit back and listen to what people are saying. All these organizations you have listed here, they have presented their memoranda to the Finance Committee, Planning and Finance Committee of the National Assembly. And out of about 84 who did presentations, about 74 opposed this bill. And it's not just not opposing for the sake of opposing, like some of us who are politicians are doing. It's opposing with facts, telling you if you do this, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, it's not going to be good for the economy. Like the employers, they have said very well. If this bill passes the way it is today, it's obvious that we'll be forced by circumstances, because our payrolls cannot accommodate this additional levy. We have two options. One option is either to lay off workers, or the other option is to move them from permanent and pensionable to a casio arrangement. So that now, when you go casio, then the issue of the levy disappears. And I'm telling you, what will happen at the end of the day is, now, if this proposal passes there today, Kenyans now will revert to what we call tax avoidance. Companies will start preparing two payrolls. There will be payroll for Kenya Kwanza government, and will be payroll for Idano administration of the company. Who will lose? Those of us who are economists, we have what we call the Rafa curves theory, where it says there is a way you can do your tax rates to a level where you collect less in terms of revenue than you would collect if you reduced your tax rate. This is basic economics theory, which you can't change. So we are saying, and I said it on Saturday, there is no country in this world which has developed by taxing people beyond their capacity to pay. If you tax people beyond their capacity to pay, what will happen is, the first thing, they won't pay, and the second one, they will look for all means and ways to make sure that they will never pay. So who loses? Even the 51 billion you want to collect, we'll never collect it.
Yes.
The other thing is, when you look at the Institute of Economic Affairs, That's a think tank.
Excuse me.
It's a think tank. And most of the guys who are there are economists, who do a lot of research in terms of what is happening in the market day to day. And they are saying, gentlemen and ladies, we want to support Kenya Kwanza government to do their programs and projects. But the way the economy is today, what we call the carrying capacity of the economy today, in terms of disposable income available to Kenyans, we can't carry this kind of load. So can we renegotiate to see that we rearrange a few things so that we allow Kenyans time for the economy to improve, and they will give you the money. So the issue of the timing. Actually now, the economists are talking about timing. Is this the right time to push? When an economy is in a kind of a state of recession, there are things you don't do. And this is an international practice. When an economy appears to be in a state of recession, we are not yet there fully, but we are almost ending there. There are things you don't do. What you do is you push more money to the people's pockets so that you trigger demand for goods and services.
Thank you.
In that case, then you are able to help the economy grow. And that's the challenge we're having.
Right.
Yes.
I like the fact that you're mentioning Arthur Laffer on that issue, because we had Professor Gitele, who had written a very good article here regarding the increase of taxation. And it says that Arthur Laffer opines that increase in taxation rate will yield corresponding increase in tax revenue. Increase in taxation rate will yield corresponding increase in tax revenue up to a point of deflection.
Yes.
To a point of deflection, which is where further increase in tax rate will result in decline in tax revenue.
Yeah.
And I wanted just to latch on what Esther Passares was talking about when you alluded to the fact that you're an employer. You've given this particular point on how also some of this contractual agreement will be reviewed. That if I'm on a pensionable and permanent employment, my employer will rethink about my employment to a contract basis where I'm not obligated as an employer to give you pension, or for this matter to actually have even the housing levy. So how will these dynamics play out? Looking at this, when you are raising these taxes, will it give the desired result that you'll have more revenue, or it will actually lead to what Dr. Makali is talking about, to a deflection where these revenues will not be there because, one, you'll be forced to retrench so that you may have few employers for you to afford that particular percentage that the government is seeking from you. So don't you think it will be sort of a blowback in an effort to try to raise the revenue at this particular time when he says, is this a good time? Is using your discretion, it is quite a very fluid moment where there is a recession in the world.
For a labor-intensive company, this might end up being a huge problem. But I think overall, if you are a company that is already declaring profits, right? I think there comes a time where humanity has to stand. If you're a citizen of this country and you have visited, there's a time when I was doing the lighting in Kibera, when I brought the first lighting.
Adopt a Light.
Yes, when I brought the Adopt a Light project. I took some business people. I remember Mr. Divani of Pelican. I took him to Kibra, and we walked through the whole slum, and he was shocked, and he was willing to do anything to help eradicate that situation. I believe that even KEPSA and all these organizations that are now saying no, we'll cut employment, etc. The whole world, we can see it's happening. Jobs are being cut everywhere. We have that danger already. But I think the whole idea is, one, we need to raise our bar on patriotism. Two, we need to actually make sure everybody is willing to pay tax. The problem is, one, we need to pay tax and know that we're getting the services. In Europe, I see a lot of videos going through the social media right now of various people from the West saying, oh, no country has ever succeeded because of taxation. But if you look at the taxes that are being paid in Europe, they're huge, huge. But I would rather, for me, having
the commensurate services as well, they are at par with the taxes that are being paid.
But let me tell you what, I look at Greece as an example, all right? What happened with Greece is we borrowed so much, we didn't make the right decisions, and then we ended up in austerity measures. You do not want Kenya to get into austerity measures. If you're talking about job cuts right now, let me tell you, the kind of job cuts that we will have when IMF comes and starts squeezing us, right? Don't employ people, don't give increments, do this, do that. We do not want austerity measures. We want to reduce our debt. We want to make sure that we manage our own economy. And I believe that it's going to be a rough space. But how rough this space is going to be depends on how we're going to deal with corruption. And also, we've got some expenses that we can cut. All right? Let us look at not just taxation, because we need, if we want to really be successful in the projects that we want to do, compensation, farming, you know, we've talked about food security, we've talked about agriculture, we've talked about irrigation, and we still have a problem. We've spent so much money. Corruption. If we deal with corruption, we collect these taxes and we deliver the services. Let me tell you, as an employer, if the housing project is successful, all my employees are guaranteed a rent to own. As I said, at the moment, the rent to own aspect of the housing project is too low. We need to make sure we increase it to at least 30 or 40% of the total project. Because what is happening, you've got rent to own, you've got low cost and affordable. So the middle class is able to really capture the affordable, and they're happy with that. And some of them are taking these houses not to live in them themselves, which is very selfish. It's for them to actually rent out, but they're making the investment. So the thing is, we need to make sure that low cost and affordable do not take the bigger chunk of the housing project. We need it to go to social housing, because social housing means you can move in and immediately start paying. And that's why, you know, there was that confusion that happened when Hinga spoke recently. And he says that no one will have to pay, you know. But no, the people will have to pay. It's happening right now. When you're having these projects like in Kibra, in Mukuru, people are being encouraged to pay a little bit to contribute, because you know what? You have to be part and parcel of the success of your country. And you know, I keep telling people who say, oh, we can't afford 300 shillings, we're struggling. Cut sugar. People spend at least 1,000 shillings on sugar every month in their households, minimum. So cut the sugar, because sugar for me is diabetes comes into play. It's got a lot of health hazards, you know. So if you cut sugar, you will always find a way to squeeze yourself so that you're able to get a better life. You cannot get a better life without a little bit of cuts. So I like the idea of saving, but I think it has to be, people have to believe in that culture of saving. You know, we have a beautiful country. Let us make sure that we become part and parcel of the growth of this country, removing us from debt so we have more money. And I believe that if we manage corruption, we come up with consensus. And you know, sometimes I sit down and I hear the other side talk and the insults that are going across, and you know, even my friend here, Owen, trying to liken Raila to brainwashing. Raila is not brainwashing. Right now he's become the champion of the hustler nation. He's the champion of the hustler nation. We are actually we took off from where you failed. Okay, the promises you made, right? Some of them you've not delivered, and this is the danger of making promises during an election. All right, we were saying that the Ukraine war has led to prices of food going up. They were saying no. Today they're saying the Ukraine war. So you see, this is politics, and you've got clips. You've got clips that show Musalia saying things in the past that were different from what he's saying today. So what I want to say, let's put Kenya first. Let's respect the fact that we have an opposition right now that is putting the government on check. But the check we want to put you is not to paralyze or to stop you from doing the functions as government. We want to give you checks so that you serve the people. We want lower food prices. That will not come unless we actually spend money in the right way. We make sure the fertilizer prices go down. We make sure we give seeds and inputs. We make sure we understand. You know, Raila had this amazing dream of clustering. Every county, look at its strength and build on that strength. Let me tell you, instead of looking at Raila and thinking that Baba is not, you know, he's a pain in the backside, or he's tough, he's hard, he's what, he is right now. He has become the father of the hustler nation. And you know, when we talk about the handshake, you know, And Baba, you know, right now we ridicule him and say he wants a handshake. Peace. The price for peace is worth paying. And Baba coming down and saying, fine, let's work together. It takes a lot of humility and love and passion for this country. So for me, I want the other side. First of all, the more you insult Raila, the less you will get further away. Remember, we go further if we go together. All right? And we're not saying we want to come and be part of the government. We want to be the opposition, right? Because we are there right now. But we want the things that we're speaking about, from free, fair, credible elections, IEBC, to corruption, to employment opportunities. The promises that you made, you have to fulfill them. And I'll tell you, they cannot fulfill any promises, Kenya Kwanza, if they do not deal with corruption. And if they do not get on the table and talk. The same way we want to get on the table with the West is the same way the opposition wants to get on the table, so you hear us. Makali Moli is saying we're going to go close by close. There will be points that we will make. Let us be civil. Let's put the country up. Let's seed some things where we have to seed. And, you know, I like the bipartisan talks that are going on, but let the bipartisan talks be serious, because you know President Ruto is going to run for 2 terms. At the end of the day, it's not about him and the second term. It's about the country and posterity going forward. So do we need a strong electoral body? Yes, we do. Do we need to look at the electoral injustices? Yes, we do. Do we need to compensate the Mau Mau? Yes, we do. We have to. There are injustices there. Do we need to stop social profiling Mount Kenya youth? Yes, we do. All right? Do we need Bungiki to grow in strength? No, we don't. But what we do need is to make sure that we understand what gave birth to Bungiki in the first place. Because, you know, there is the underground.
All right.
You cannot stop things. When people are oppressed, they will get to the underground and they will come up again. So we don't want Sudan in Kenya. We want Kenya to grow.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Pesaris. I just wanted to come to Isaac, because Esther is talking about this is a moral obligation. As Kenyans, we should support one another, and even having, you know, the indignities of living in squalid conditions should not be part of, you know, our constituents as a society. And the president has been on that bit, and he says it's our moral obligation to actually pay this particular levy. How is it turning out to be very ethical at the end of the day?
I think, you see, this is the wisdom hour. And I like what Esther Passaris is saying. She's speaking a lot of wisdom. If you are to classify her, she would be a moderate. But Makali Mulu would be an extremist.
What about Bayer?
Owen Bayer is defending the government. Let me say this. Well, it's just about the viewpoints. You know, Esther was almost saying like she's Greece. You know, she's Greek.
I am Greek. I represent the Greek. I represent Greece. The Greeks have a parliament called the Greeks outside of Greece, parliamentarians all over the world. So I'm actually part of the World Hellenic Interparliamentarian Association, and I was in Cyprus recently to meet the president, because we've got a lot of Greeks in Cyprus. And I'm going to Greece in July again. We'll be meeting the president, and the government will be making a brief to us. We're about 300 parliamentarians across the world of Greek descent, and so we get together. So I am, but we don't want austerity measures in this country. I would rather taxation. We want to hold our independence.
I like that. No, actually, no, you know, I wanted to trigger that, because that is exactly what I wanted her to say.
The Hellenistic view that Tilash is giving.
Okay. Because you see, Greece went down because of that over borrowing, to the point that even Germany was negotiating for some of the islands. So we really have to foot our bill. In short, you know, it's not a question. Nobody will come to build houses for us. And sometimes, because I've also been in the NGO sector, and I can see here Raymond Omolo speaking very well about how monies have been increased from 138 billion funding to I think 170 something, and yet most of those NGOs, only 3,000 out of 9,000 are paying pay as you earn and other levies. Nobody is going to build our country. Let's not lie to one another.
No.
When we borrow, we are borrowing like now, because majority leader, you said here, Professor Ndongo is your friend. If we are giving China 1.3 trillion from what you and I are collecting from VAT, from whatever amount of money, I mean, what is the dignity in there? Therein, China is saving 55% of its income. If you go to the Scandinavian countries, they are taxed up to 50%, but then they have good quality services. There's a whole matrix there around people getting value for their money, but also footing their bill. But the issue of corruption, it's amazing how all of us want justice and fairness and equity collectively, but individually we want to get undue advantage ahead of each other. That is the essence of corruption, where people come and tell you, Debal, I want you to do me a favor, and then that other favor, so it becomes now those favors are the ones that distort the common good for all. Because today, if you know you are going to get social housing, and yet you are actually getting many houses as a form of investment because you have some money there, start somewhere so that you are able to rent out to other people. Again, the people who are poor and who are deserving will be outed. So and I don't think there is any law that can really make people to be more accountable other than their own conscience. Sometimes we say, okay, it is the government of the day that needs to fight corruption, but yet we are the ones generating it because of our selfish ambition. Even the Bible is very clear. Selfish ambition is one of the sins. Where you plan on how to accumulate primitively, and then the question is, what is the need of you accumulating primitively? Fathers who are absent at home because they are chasing wealth, they disconnect with their families and their children, and then when they die, those people start fighting for that same wealth, and then they are protracted court battles forever. So I think it's a question that we need to ask ourselves, because we accuse other countries of corrupting us, and indeed they have learned a way that they can even come and burden us with debt because we want easy money and kickbacks, and then we pay because we are now mortgage slaves, and then when we are told now to tax ourselves, we start complaining. When will we ever get this housing? If you remember the time of Mwai Kibaki, the idea that time was that we needed 100,000 houses every year. Now, in the regime of William Ruto, it is 250,000 houses, 50,000 catered by the local market. And yet, we keep on saying at independence we are equal to Singapore. We even got there to benchmark. In fact, the Prime Minister of Singapore was here. In the last regime, I remember, President Uhuru went to Singapore because there were 4 boards that he established in Lee Kuan Yew. And there's a huge volume of a book here. That he wrote about how he moved from that world to first world. At what point are we going to move to that level? We have to make difficult decisions, and I think personally, as I want to join my colleagues in saying, as we also increase taxes, can we also come up with serious wastage reduction mechanisms? This is how we actually shoot ourselves in the foot. We have a kilometer of road that can cost 15-20 million, even when you have your profit of 30% or so. But then it is valued at, it's priced at 40 million, so that you can actually feed the whole corruption chain, as I can call it, the value supply chain, corruption chain, or procurement chain. And then we end up with an outlay of about 950 billion worth of roads that cannot be funded because there is no money. So yet, if we are to go by that ratio, if at all it's 50% or even 70% or 70-30, you are talking about if you could have reduced that to about 500 billion or less. And then you still have quality roads. And these roads, because of the kickbacks, then the supervisory power is actually bought off by the fact that the kickback is required by this person who is supposed to be supervised by Maura, for example. So then you have poor quality roads that do not last for long. Then you have maintenance, by the same company. So you can see people are not willing to build their own country, but we like to whine, we like to blame the colonizers, we like to be the victims, we like to be the ones who have been offended, but yet we cannot face ourselves in the mirror and say, indeed, we are the enemies unto our own country. And 60 years down the line, it doesn't follow, by the way, Debal, that the more a country is older, the more they are going to develop. No. We have countries that are 250 years old, but they are still lagging behind. There are those that got it right, and they are on the upward trajectory to development. I think we are having a very serious conversation of how to fund our bill. I think we are having a very serious conversation about manners of how to share whatever that is at the table. Who is eating more than the other? How much are we able to be more rational in terms of who gets what, where, and how? And that's a very good conversation. For sure, I hear Esther Pasari says that now Raila is the father of Azlan.
Yeah.
Azlan Nation. Usually what
it has
happens...
flipped.
What happens?
The coin has flipped.
Yeah.
According to Esther Passaris.
What happens the moment you win government? People join the opposition, including the media, including civil society. I was in civil society last week, about one, I think, in Nakuru.
To check the government.
Yeah, and all of them. In fact, one of them was very candid. Maura, unfortunately, we were with you when you were fighting for this government, but we have to go to the other side. Because, of course, if they had to join government, they would lose their currency. They would lose their momentum. They would lose their relevance, you see. So they are doing it for it. Like, the owner of IBP, I don't want to mention his name, but he's my personal friend. He has to be that way because we are student leaders together with him. But I think all said and done, when we have polemic contestations by whatever side, the idea is to come up to a consensus and say this is the best for the country. Now, the honors of leading that country is with William Ruto. He's the president, and he will be adjudged after 5 years together with us who are serving under him and who championed for him, who did political marketing, as I call it, or political evangelism, whether actually we were able to fulfill the promises. But, of course, there is also a political motive. That if you are to fail, it will be it's a boon to Dr. Makali Mulu and Wiper and Azimio. So it must not be lost to that cause. That we will not fully, of course, agree, but somehow the country must move forward and must move forward to lift millions of Kenyans out of poverty.
All right. I want us just to spend the little minutes that we have, I think 18 to go. I find it a bit outstandingly appalling as a country that we're waking up to news that we don't have any strategic food reserve. I wonder in which country in this world how they manage to survive with any strategic food reserve. Even from your own families. I mean, you have pantries and you have stock that you put. How can we just be living as a country without any margin of error for emergencies? I think this is really calls for a national conversation that we don't have food in our stocks completely, and we're subjected now to the whims of the market forces as it is right now. Don't you find that to be appalling, even as legislators? And then we have Owen by pointing back to Uhuru government who stopped the strategic food reserve. Yeah.
Well, I think it is a very sad situation.
It's sad indeed.
We have an SBP in my constituency, and if you go there is no food. There's nothing.
There's nothing completely.
And I think it's Cherargei or the deputy leader of majority in Senate who raised that question. How come this country does not have strategic food reserve? The buck stops with the guy who was in charge of this country. That he abolished strategic food reserves. And it's the economists will tell you, why should I put food in the reserve and yet I can sell, make more money and grow more food and make money? I don't know whether you have that, you get that.
But the argument about now the buck stops really stops with Uhuru Kenyatta. He's not in office anymore.
No, but
we hold the current government to be responsible.
This was a decision that was made 3 years ago. And
it is not a irreversible decision, is it?
This decision is what William Ruto is saying. What is he saying? He's saying, I want to give subsidy to production so that we can increase productivity in this country. Increase productivity in this country in such a way that we can actually have food reserves. We actually going there as a government. That is our plan. And if you look at what William Ruto has been saying, I want to give out fertilizer, I want to give better seeds, I want to produce more from the farms. Now, when we produce more for the farms, this country will have surplus supply in terms of food. When we have surplus supply, then we can build strategic food reserves for the future so that when drought hits us, we do not have to panic because we say, okay, even if this drought persists for the next 4 or 5 months, we have enough food to feed this country before we think of importing, stabilizing prices.
But when you talk about importing, all these maize that we've been importing,
yes,
they've just been going directly to farmers? No storage at all?
Because, we also have to operate within the COMESA rules. How much can we import for the country and all that? But importing food is not the solution. And it will not help this country. What we need to do is to produce more food. That's why if you look at some of the taxes that are being reduced, if you look at the around 20 taxes that are being reduced, a lot of them goes into reduction on the cost of production of food. You reduce taxes so that you help farmers to grow or more food so that we have more strategic reserves. And that is one thing that we must do as a country, and it is an urgent thing. It must have been done like yesterday, and it is, I think, one of the things that this government is working on. But Debala, I want to make one point, if you allow me. I had a very good conversation yesterday with one of the investors in my constituency. It's called Captain Andy. Captain Andy makes boats, and he sells boats in Mauritius. He actually exports boats. There's a factory in Watamu that just deals with making huge boats for military, for all that. So he gave me a call and said, "Oh, you know, I don't like this finance bill. And you as my MP, if you go there, I want you to oppose it." So he told me, "I want you to oppose it." And I asked him why. He said, "Because I have 150 employees. And if you have 150 employees and you tell me for each one of them I have to pay 3% house levy, all of them, then if I make my calculations according to the salaries that I pay, because I have engineers, I have experts and all that, then my bill will go up by around 5 billion shillings. And therefore, the only thing I can do is I will need to downsize unemployment. And if I downsize employment, it means my productivity will go down. And if I produce less, I will be also bringing less revenue to the country." And he had this whole beautiful thing. Then I told him, "Captain, I want you to tell me one thing. These debts that you pay in dollars?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Okay. And what is the cost of a dollar today? To Kenyan shillings?" And he told me, "Yes, it's very, very high." I said, "So you're actually losing your profits because of the cost of the dollar. Now, if we stabilize this economy and the cost of the dollar comes down to what it used to be, wouldn't you make more profit?" And he said, "Yes, I would make more profit." So I told him, "You see, you are looking for the wrong solution to a problem. You cannot tell me by imposing housing levy you're going to downsize because of the housing levy, and yet the cost of the dollar, as it continues to skyrocket, you even lose more." I think that is the correct position. My economist, you know, I have to pay him retainer for as my economist.
For some lessons.
He helps me understand a lot of things. So I told him, "You see, Captain, what we need to do today now, if we build that capital, we do not have to borrow outside. We use the capital that we have in this country. It means we'll stabilize the dollar. We will be paying less on debt because we are paying this debt in dollar. Now, if we are paying this debt in dollar, when we cut down on borrowing as a country, we save on the dollar, and because on the demand of the dollar. If we save on the demand of the dollar, then the economy stabilizes. We bring back the dollar to 100. We bring back to the dollar 100. We have cut off over 42 shillings per dollar. It means, therefore, you as a net importer, because he imports a lot of the raw materials for his factory, then you're going to make more profit. Actually, you're going to employ more people. So don't be worried about 3%. The dollar has gone up by around 50%.
Yeah, it's almost 150, right?
Yes.
To the shilling right now.
Yes, around 50-60%. That's why the dollar. So if we stabilize this economy the next 1 year, and we bring down the dollar by 60%, how much interest, how much money are you going to make? How much saving are you going to make? And they said, "Yes, actually, you know, my problem is not the house levy. My problem is the dollar." So I told him, look for a solution for the dollar. If we get a solution for the dollar to bring the dollar down, this country's economy will stabilize. Everything will come down, including fuel. It will come down. So he asked me, "So what is the plan?" I told him, the plan is, if we collect more money, we reduce on borrowing. When we reduce on borrowing, then it means that the dollar demand will go down and will stabilize this country. And this is the whole plan. If we have this 51 billion and we have the extra 400 billion into this country, I can tell you by December, the dollar will have come down. If the dollar comes down, this country's economy will stabilize. And that is a simple economic fact, Makau. He agrees.
Makali, if you can, just to latch on that dollar issue, because it seems the dollar is on a free fall right now, going at 150. And since we are looking for money to actually pay this particular debt, for every shilling that is dropping, we're almost paying 4 billion.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
4 billion shillings for every shilling. So every day we see a shilling dropping, it is adding to that particular amount as it is right now. But on that contractual agreement with this particular financiers as well, should the government be seeking another Eurobond? when we know the current state of play that we are in right now? We've seen some of the bankers, the banks that have already been shortlisted for the second Eurobond as it is right now. Sorry.
And maybe let me tie the issue of the dollar to our earlier discussion about the reserves, the strategic reserves.
Yes.
You know, the reason why you have strategic reserves basically is to be able to stabilize the markets when things get out of control.
Yes.
For example, when you don't have maize, then you can push more maize to the market and the prices get stabilized.
Yes.
It's the same case. It's a requirement. The best practice all over the world is that at any point, a country should have dollars worthy 4 months of imports at any point as reserves. Now, if you have dollars worthy 4 months of imports, so the total imports of the goods you bring to your country, if they cost you $100, at any point you should have $400 as reserves. So that when the dollar is destabilized, you push these dollars to the market and you stabilize the market.
Yes.
Now, the problem we have currently, we are doing at, I think, 3.6 months. So there are no dollars
reserves
in the country.
Yes.
There are no dollars. They are below what is expected. As a result of that, the market forces then of demand and supply come into play. So long as you don't have enough dollars in the country, and dollars, the way we get dollars is mostly by either exporting goods and services,
Yes.
or the most popular, where we get dollars through our sons and daughters who are out there, out of the country,
Yes.
and they bring the transfers to Kenya. Then it means as a country, that state we have to be in it. But what is happening now? The fact that the dollar has changed, we started about 112
Yes.
per a dollar to a Kenya shilling.
Yes.
That is about 135.
Yes.
Which is about, at next stage, let's say about 30% change,
Yes.
increase. Now, that affects a lot of things. And that's why you saw the government went for government-to-government importation of oil,
Yes.
petroleum products. Because in that case, then you pay in shillings, not in dollars. But the impact of that is still yet to be felt in the country. So, all said and done, what will happen is that at the end of the day, the issue of the dollar is going to affect a lot of our sectors. The first one is public debt, as you rightly put it. Between December and March, because those are the reports which were given by the control of budget, we had paid about 580 million, just because of that difference in terms of interest payment.
Yes.
It's a lot.
In 1 year, the last year, this is the 2022-2023 financial year. No, 2021-2022 financial year. Just the immediate financial year, we paid in total 1.2 trillion, just because of the change of the dollar. So no, not trillion, billion. Sorry.
Yes.
So you can see the kind of figures we are talking about. That this change of foreign exchange, the rate itself, is causing a lot of problems with the country. And that's why we are saying reserves, whether maize reserves, whether beans reserves or dollar reserves, we need them. And basically what is happening is because just poor planning. But the one of the maize, let's not lose the fact that the reason why the Jubilee government did away with maize reserves was actually because of the corruption, the one what I was talking about. Because importation of maize in this country has become a milk cow,
Yes.
a cash cow.
Yes.
That people milk that a lot.
Yes.
So I think it got to a level where the Jubilee government decided that what we do is let's do away with this thing, so that we only import maize when we need maize. Because people were taking advantage that they are even importing maize when we had enough maize in the country, just to be able to cut to make their deal. And people are cutting serious deals. You heard of the maize scandal, where some of our colleagues were key players in that scandal. Members of parliament were key players, and we have all the details. I'm sure when we will tell you, where you're just given a voucher, you sell it to a Muindi, you get your 100 million or 50 million, and the Muindi does the importation, and you have cut your. So because of that deal cutting, I think the Jubilee government decided that we do away with the reserves to streamline the situation. But as you said earlier, That doesn't mean we cannot bring them back again. It can be reintroduced, but then we streamline the process.
Thank you.
So that people don't lose money.
Right.
That's what I want to say.
Pasaris, I think we are just remaining with the 5 minutes. We should be giving our headline thoughts. You can chime in or still the food, strategic food reserve, even as we're winding up, and giving your closing remarks as well.
As a country, we are hand to mouth. Okay, our orphanages, our old people's homes are suffering. We've got a lot of corruption in even trying to pay our farmers. Or even to import. This, we need to really end corruption, because I know that there are people who even get those LPOs and probably supply air and they get paid. So for all those people who engage in corruption, you know, I mean, you're in this world for such a short period of time and you're going to leave this world. And the money that you amass, the karma, you know, karma is your debts, good and bad, you will pay. So let us be a bit more humane. Let us start caring for each other. There's no point in getting a contract to supply, and then you're instead of it being 100 million shillings cheaper, so that it could be save the government money, it's 100 million shillings more expensive because you're getting a cut. All right. I think we need to have a way to just care, because the reserves. Even in the houses, people don't have it. The orphanages, I have a cerebral palsy orphanage here in Nairobi, and she called me and said they have no food. And this is where now I'm going to be going to Florence Bore and saying, I need food for the orphanages. We need to feed the orphanages. We don't want to talk family planning. We don't want to have commodities. Hospital, cancer. People are suffering from cancer. They can't afford to buy the drugs. The drugs are probably not available. We're in a bad state. So we have to deal with corruption. On closing, I really hope that we can come together and really agree what's best for this country, because I feel that Kenya is bigger than all of us. And I also feel that Raila Odinga, Baba, Jacom, my party leader, and now you know, the father of the nation in terms of caring for the hustler's plight, should not be ignored, should not be ridiculed, should not be insulted. He should be respected. If devolution were to work, if we were to deal with corruption and devolution were to work, we would really be in a better place. So I want to also tell the governors that, you know, I have seen, you know, I was in Naivasha and I found out that half the hotels in Naivasha are owned by a governor. And he couldn't have gotten those hotels with his own personal money. He definitely got those hotels because of corruption. So these governors who are getting all this big money to work and serve their counties, do the work that you have to do for your people.
Thank you.
Increase the revenue for your people. I pray that we bring sanity and remember that Kenya requires our help.
Thank you.
Tighten our belts and let us get our country in a good place.
Thank you. All right, Maura, your closing remarks as well.
I think the country is on a takeoff mode. It's a difficult launching pad. I want to ask Kenyans to rally behind President William Ruto. You know, it may not be very popular right now, but I can assure you that he's a forthright leader and he has the best intentions for this country. He is, of course, the father of the nation. He is a leader. And he is a chief hustler number one. He's never forsaken his people, and I think it is very, very important that we say so, and I look forward to a situation where we all believe that no matter how difficult it is, we can rally for the common good of all. Of course, I want to challenge the governors. There are now new industrial parks. Let's utilize them to aggregate productivity. But also, we need to take stock. 10 years of devolution. This year, 3 trillion, given down the line. What is it for our people? And finally, is to wish my friend, the CAS in the office of the Deputy President, Sudi Wandabusi, congratulations on his joining the bar as an advocate.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I want to say this in closing. One, that one of my professors of strategic management told me that if no one opposes the things that you do, probably you're doing nothing. If you agree all time, agree on everything, then one person is unnecessary. You know. Why am I saying that? Because the opposition, I saw the list of the people opposing. what William Ruto is trying to do. It also shows that there is something there that people are looking at. If there was nothing in that finance bill, we would not be having this kind of discussion. It buttresses one point. William Ruto is a smart politician, not just a politician, but a smart strategic thinker. That's why he brings something different and says we need to stir the economic development of this country. The question is how. In fact, what we agree on one thing, all of us, that the economy of this country needs to be stirred to growth. The question is how. Now, different people, different economics from economic thought will bring in different ideas.
Thank you.
And different ideas then bring conflict or consensus. So as we move forward, we'll find the point at which this country will actually start doing the Singapore, the other countries,
the Malaysians as well.
And I think
Thank you.
William Ruto is coming out as a great leader.
Finally,
Thank you, Dibal. You know, Dibal, let me thank my friends for this frank debate.
Yes.
It's good we tell Kenyans the truth.
Yes.
And even though Maura says I'm an extremist, the good thing is I always say the truth, and you don't know the truth can push you to either side or the other side, depending on what is being said. Yeah. But for the country, I think really, Dibal, one area we have ignored a lot, and I think this is what we should now, as we debate this finance bill, we also need to focus on, is the expenditure side of the equation. Let's look at our expenditure pattern. How are we spending our resources as a country? And I see a lot of opportunities to save if we got it right. And by saving, it means we'll have more resources for more programs, and we'll have more resources to reduce our public debt.
Thank you.
So by that we'll have solved a lot of things. But planning is critical.
Thank you.
Let's plan also well.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. That is still an ongoing story, so we shall pick up on it next week, seeing the development on the floor of the House. Esther Passaris, Women Rep, Nairobi County, I want to thank you for coming through this morning. Thank you for contribution. Also want to thank you, Isaac Maura, CAS, Ministry of Prime Cabinet Secretary. Thank you for coming through. We want to thank you also, the Deputy Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Owen Bayer. Thank you for your sentiments. And of course, it will be a hard task for you, together with the Majority Leader in the House. We look forward to see how that will be panning out. And I also want to thank you, Makali Mulu, Daktari, thank you for coming through. And I can see Farah Maalim, your Deputy Leader as well, is now supporting Ruto on this particular bill and other issues as well. Is he vacating slowly by slowly? And is this a deeming that is...
No, he will tell us. But he's our deputy party leader, so I believe he's just keeping his opinion as an individual. But the party position is no. The party position is no.
Okay.
As me, and we are supporting. We are actually saying no to the bill.
Unless no to the bill,
unless it's amended. Unless it's amended.
There are some
specific
gentlemen
to the bill.
and ladies, thank you so much. I really appreciate our time is up. It's sticking away from us. And I want to thank our viewers as well for your valued company. Let's see you tomorrow on Global Today, but don't go away. News Diary is up next.
Kill.